hey, my fabulous people. Guys, it is Wednesday. It is wonderful Wednesday. Happy hump day. Happy hump day. How you all doing today? I am doing wonderful. That starts with a W, right? I'm wonderful. You're wonderful. I pray you're having an amazing day. I pray your morning started right. I woke up this morning, guys, and it was snow outside. I am not a snow person. I like Fall is my favorite season, okay? So when I wake up and I know it's wintertime and I see snow outside, it was sneaky too because I didn't even know it snowed. It's like I woke up and it was just snow outside. I'm like, what's going on? And then I started getting texts about, is it a school delay to the bus driver? And I was like, hold on, did I miss something? Did I go to sleep and wake up in what is it? When she went to Oz, you know what I'm talking about, Dorothy. Like you woke up and you woke up like somewhere else. You want to click your heels and say, I want to go back home. But that is enough of my foolishness. But I wanted to welcome you all to 40s Plus Mom Movement. How are you all doing? I know I'd asked that already, but I just have to make sure that you all are still fabulous. Are you all fabulous? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. But anyway, I pray you all are doing well, and I hope that you got an opportunity to check out my last video that I talked about showing grace. And I want to tell you all something about that video. A lot of times when I do videos and I'm talking to you all about things, I told you I'm experiencing things first, and it's kind of like I put myself in check. But I just want to give y'all a little update real quick about that, about just how it was birthed or what made the video come. And just from me examining myself and just seeing that there are things as a parent that I need to be mindful of. And this whole week has been great. Like the one situation I gave about me being impatient because I'm a prompt person and how the other parent is late. Not only has the other parent been timely, but the funny thing is, not only that, when my daughter's bus comes in the morning and it leaves, I normally go to the gym. So yesterday, the parent was like, you going? She said, you gonna go to the gym? And I was like, yeah. She said, all right, let's go. I was like, wait a minute now. And so she was at the gym doing her thing. I was doing my thing. But it just goes to show me that just when we start getting into ourselves and we start, putting people in a box and trying to put them on our own timeline of improvement, you just never know what happens when you just let people be who they are and leave them alone and stop putting them on our own expectations. You just don't know what can come from that. She didn't go today, which is fine because I go for me. I don't go for anybody else, but I just thought that was amazing. And just how it caused me to step back because I rewatch my videos too. Y'all not the only ones because I'm forever learning just like you. I haven't arrived as a parent, and that's why I talk about these different challenges because it's important. And it's important for you all because I want to be transparent and let you all know that even though I make a video and I talk about certain things, this is still something that I'm working on. I haven't arrived. I haven't um, come to the end of it where I have achieved everything. I'm still working on it. And so I'm just learning why it's important to show grace. And that video helped me. So I pray it really, really helped you. But we're not talking about showing grace today. We're talking about a different challenge that we all face. And I'm pretty sure you all seen the title or the topic of discussion today. It is called Dealing with Fear. Today I want to talk a little bit about dealing with fear. And I want to tell you all something about me before becoming a parent, or I want to share with you why I was either at the point in my life where I was okay if I had a child, or if I didn't have a child, I was okay either way. Either way, but according to the Lord, He gave me one. So this is something I believe that all parents deal with. So I want to talk about or share with me why as to why I was okay either way. So we live in this world where, of course, everything that goes on in the world is always in front of us. It's always, um, pretty much we can see what's going on. We got the news, we have the papers, we have social media. It's like everything, this environment or this planet called Earth that we live on, we are always given news or reported about everything that's happening. And so before I even had a daughter, before I was blessed with my daughter, there was always this thought in the back of my mind where I was grateful that I did not have a child at that time, because I did not want to worry about everything that I deal with, and then now have a child, and she has to grow up into this world where now I have to not only deal with my fears, but now I gotta think about her. And that's a whole nother added, not saying a stress, but it's a whole nother thought that can bring fear, because now I'm like, it's so much wrong in the world. It's so much going on. And I don't want to highlight any incident, but we all are familiar with the incident that just happened with the young man in Memphis. And I'm like, this is another situation that is now before us because somebody's life has been taken. And I'm like, this is just a fear that every parent has. We have a fear of something happening, something that can happen now that I'm a parent, not just to me, but to my child. And so I just want to talk about this challenge, because that's a challenge for us, dealing with fear. How do we handle fear when we live in a world that keeps so many things before our eyes and our ears, that it pretty much increases our fears, because we live in a world where all we see is the negative. We see all the bad. We don't see too much of the good. So today I just want to kind of talk about dealing with fear, because fear is pretty much, it's like a strong emotion. And I got my trusty book. So I write my notes down. So if I look over to the right, I'm just making sure I don't miss none of the nuggets that y'all have to know. But fear is pretty much, it's a strong emotion. And it's caused by something. It's caused by either we are anticipating something, or it's a true awareness of danger. So that's what fear is. It's pretty much a strong emotion where it's caused by anticipation, or it's pretty much just an awareness of danger. And so think about it. We actually are not always in a position that is going to make us, have a moment where we're afraid or we have fear that develops. But sometimes, because we're constantly anticipating, which means that we're kind of predicting it, it means that we are kind of expecting something to happen. And so when it comes to being a parent, this is where our mind is a lot of times, where we know we can be in a house, we can be anywhere, and it's that anticipation, that what if, that unknown, that like we can still be in a safe place or in a safe environment, and we still have this feeling that we are expecting something, and it can generate fear. And it's that fear of the what ifs, of the unknown, of what we can't control, of the things that are not within our control, or the possibility of what can happen. And so that is something that I deal with, or I've dealt with, or thought about. I didn't think about it as much before I became a parent. But now that I am a parent, this is something that I deal with. And I'm pretty sure that it's something that you deal with too. And it's something that probably stays not even in the back of your mind, but it's probably sitting right here. It's like, wow. Because it's like, as soon as you wake up, I'm going to tell you something. I could be in my car sitting down driving, or not even in my car. I can just have my alarm go off on my phone in the morning at a certain time. And it's, how your phone has data, and it's forever. As the phone goes off, it'll be some type of news thing that comes on there. This happened here. This happened there. So it's like we are constantly being fed all the bad things, the wrong things, everything that's happening. And instantly, we have to get up every single day and send our children and ourselves out into this world where we're constantly being fed all of the things that are feeding our fears. And so I want to talk about that, because I want to remind us that that is not how we have to live our lives. That is not how we are expected to live our lives. It's a lot of things that we're going to encounter as long as we're living in this world. But guess what? That doesn't mean that we have to allow fear to cripple us. And when I say cripple, us. I'm not trying to be in a way that the word cripple sometimes can be looked at in different ways, but crippling us just means that it causes us to no longer function normally emotionally, where we're pretty much now we're starting to look at things in a way that we are now becoming irrational. Because that's what happens when something cripples you, when you are so fearful of something happening to you, something happening to your child. It's like we take these extra precautions where we don't even think logically anymore. Like we don't have this liberty of living in life that we are supposed to have, because we are afraid of everything. Like we do not look at the beauty of the world and everything that is good and the things that are good from it. We're focusing more on the things that are not. And this is that part of us that we are anticipating, or we like live our lives and we're expecting. And I know we say, well, as parents, we got to pre-plan. We always got to be a step ahead. Yes, we do, because that's what we do. We are parents. We are planners. We make sure everything is safe and protective and protected. And that is who I am as a mom. I am that parent that want to make sure that everything is right with my daughter. She's safe. She's protected. But guess what? I don't want to be in my mind, I don't want to have a battle where I start to allow my anxieties and my worries to produce fear, because you do know that when we have so much worrying and we're constantly thinking about the things that can happen or the what ifs or the unknowns, that a lot of times it does allow anxieties create our fears, because that's where the fear comes from. It comes from our own anxieties. Think about it. If I'm fearful that something's going to happen to my child every time, my baby now is 4. She's 4, she goes to school. And I'm going to tell you all something. Before my daughter started going to school, I had a real, I'm going to say I did have a fear, because she had never been away from me, out of my presence for hours at a time. Because, when children go to school, they're gone to school for 6.5 hours. So it's a lot that can happen between 6.5 hours. I mean, I am that parent that when she started school, um, before she had to catch the bus, now that was a whole different fear. Before she had to catch the bus and things like that, there was that fear. She's in a room with another adult. What happened if something happens at school and I'm not there? What happens if I get a phone call? See, you know what that's called right there? That's a type of fear, but that type of fear is called irrational. Because what I'm doing is I'm sitting here creating different examples or going through things that are not logical. I'm not saying that it's not okay for you to think of scenarios, but when you start thinking of scenarios and you start living your life based on those scenarios, that's when you start becoming irrational when it comes to fear. Like I said, we live in a world where I've learned that my mind sometimes gravitates to what can go wrong before what can go right. Instead of me looking at her being in school and being safe and um, and learning and growing and developing and getting the things that she needs, I'm more focused on, okay, well, what if this happens at school? What if that? Because, in the news, what happens? Of course, we know about school shootings. We know about all of those things. So it's that part of us where we are so afraid. We're so afraid that we don't even want to pull our kids. We don't even want our kids to go to school now. Now it's a lot of parents that homeschool for various reasons. But I'm going to tell you, the one reason that parents are homeschooling now, it is because of fear. It's not just because they don't think that the school system is capable. Does our education need to be revamped? Do they need better teachers? Do they need, of course, education has always needed that. But the number one reason why a lot of parents are now homeschooling their children is because of fear. It's because they are afraid. They're afraid to believe that if I send my kid to school, it may be a chance they're not coming back. Well, guess what? You can be home and something can happen. See, we have this security where we feel like, well, as long as my child is in my presence, it's okay. They're going to be safe. I don't have to worry about that. There are things that I have learned as a parent. My child can be in my presence and and everything can go wrong. There are children who have been in the presence and they've been at home that have broken bones, that have gotten, the accidents have happened. They have drank something they should not have. They have been running the house, and anything can happen. This is what I'm saying when it comes to the fear that we have. It's not that we're not supposed to have it, because that is our primal fear. That's that fear that we have been born with. That is that fear that we can't change. It's natural. It's always going to be a part of us. But we cannot allow fear that is irrational to take over. Because what happens is that we stop living our life. We stop living in this beautiful world, because yes, the world we live in, it is a lot of things that go on. It is so many things that changes your perspective when you see it all the time. I think sometimes turn the news off. Turn it off. Don't sit there and be that person that got to see everything that's going on, because what it's going to do is going to affect you right here. And it's going to start to make you now get into this position where now you start sheltering your child. You start sheltering yourself. You stop living your life, because we are supposed to be people that live. It's like now we start focusing on everything about death. Okay, this happened here, this happened there, this happened here. And you're like, well, shoot, I'm going to keep my child and myself in a bubble so that I don't got to worry about none of that. My sister made a real profound statement a long time ago, and it was when my brother had passed. And it was an unfortunate accident that he passed from. But it just goes to show you that how I know the scripture says that tomorrow is not promised. I have learned that it does not matter whether you are doing everything right. It does not matter where you are. You can be at the grocery store, in the car, sitting at your table. It does not matter. Things happen wherever. And my sister, the profound statement that she made was that people are where they are when they're supposed to be there. Pretty much that our life, and I believe this, our life from our birth to our death, it is already, and I don't mean to say it like that, but it's pretty much we don't know. But it's from beginning to end, we don't know what's going to happen in our lives. We don't know how we'll leave this earth. We don't know, as much as we love our children, we don't know how they're going to leave the earth. We don't know anything. And this is why we cannot allow fear to cripple us, because what happens is we stop living. We don't live our lives. We live in fear. We shelter our children, we shelter ourselves, and we don't enjoy life, because life is about living. Yes, and I know it's a really a tough topic to talk about, because this is what we deal with. We deal with that as parents, because not only do we have to deal with the what ifs for us and the unknowns, now we got to think about our children. Even when I put my daughter on the bus, me and my daughter, we pray every morning before we leave. Before our day starts, before she walks out the door, we say a prayer, because I believe that that is something that we need to do, because that gives me peace. That gives me the peace that I'm not going to be worrying about my daughter. I know. I'm like, Lord, I know she's in your hands. I know she's in good hands. I believe that I will see her, and know I will see her later on. She left me at 8:40 this morning. I know I'm going to see her when she arrives here at 4:20. But in our minds, we can be like, okay, the bus driver, make sure the bus driver not speeding. Make sure that this bus driver is being safe. Make sure that, okay, she's okay at school and she's not on the monkey bars and she don't fall. Make sure this doesn't happen. If I get a phone call from her school, this is what I'm saying. This anxiety, it births fear. It builds fear. Then we get into this protective mode where I can pull her out of school and say, you know what, she's safer with me. I'm a homeschooler because I need my daughter to be safe with me. No. See, I've learned something in fear. There are different types of fear that we have. There are different types. There truly is. We have one fear. This is the rational fear. This is the kind of fear that you can see the situation and you know that you have to get in protective mode because there is a direct threat. For example, you can come home with your child with your groceries, and you get ready to get out the car, and as soon as you step out the car, you can see a dog. The dog has no leash. The dog has no collar. The dog may not be looking like it's vicious at all, but guess what? You don't know that animal. You have no clue if you step out of the car, if that dog is going to attack you, if that dog is going to come after you and your daughter. So you instantly get into a protective mode because that's a fear that's going to be generated based on the situation. That's a rational fear. And then we have that fear that we deal with, that primal fear. That's the type of fear where it's just something that's in us. It's something that we're born with. It's the things that comes to our mind where we constantly are thinking about the what ifs and the unknowns. But then we have the irrational fear. That is the type of fear that we deal with where we start just creating situations that make no sense because we feel like we have to do it to protect ourselves and our kids. And so what we do, instead of really protecting them, we get into this protection slash shelter mode where we don't live our lives and we don't allow our children to do nothing. And I know people like that. I know. I mean, that's just like saying you don't take your child to the playground because they might get snatched. Now, while that's true, because kids have been snatched before at a play area, but you got to remember those children were probably by themselves. There was probably no adult supervision. So logically, if you're at the playground and you're with your child, it's okay. Or, well, you know what? I'm not even going to celebrate. I'm not even going to take them out to celebrate their birthday out. We're not going to the movie. We're going to have a movie party, but we're not going to go there because anything can happen in the movie theaters. Guess what? That's not logical because something can happen at home. The birthday cake, the candles, you can be lighting the birthday cake and it catch onto the fire, it catches onto the curtain or paper on the table at home, and now we got to call the fire department. So, not wanting them to go out to celebrate, that's not logical either. So, that's called the irrational type of fear. See, we have so much that we deal with as parents because we are our own, like, we sometimes create our own scenarios in our minds. And we just have to remember that this is the beauty of life is to live it. I know that, guys. I know y'all like, well, what about this? What about that? Well, what about you just enjoying the day? What about you thinking not about tomorrow? Because tomorrow can handle itself. But what about you thinking about today? What about you thinking about what you want to accomplish today, this very second, this very moment? Because when fear cripples you and it doesn't allow you to think like a normal and function normally when it comes to your emotions, you're going to leave this earth. You're going to live your life thinking more about death than life. Think about that. You're going to always be thinking about everything that's not happening right instead of the things that are happening right. The world is a beautiful place. There is so much to see, to be exposed to experience. And just because we see something happening on the news, and my heart, it goes out to anyone who has lost their children, who has lost and that is something that is for a parent, no one wants to ever comprehend, no one wants to experience. And it doesn't belittle or take away the fact of the hurt that it leaves. But what I'm saying is, while we're here and while we have our children, we have to learn to live our lives. We have to learn to not allow fear to take hold of us so that we start sheltering our kids because guess what? Our kids are going to grow up one day. Our children are going to be adults. They have to leave the nest. And what we have to put inside of our kids, we have to show them how to survive and navigate in a world that's filled with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if we can't train them up, because the scripture says to train up our child in the way that they should go. If we are only instilling things in them because we're afraid, they're not going to be ready. They're not going to know how to deal with situations. My daughter is the only child. And even when my daughter had an opportunity to start Head Start, it was a part of me that was fearful. Because, see, I'm a teacher. I used to be a teacher for 25 years. I used to be a teacher. So I could have taught my daughter, and I did teach my daughter at home. But as a parent, I realized that there are certain socialization skills that my daughter was lacking. It didn't matter how smart my daughter can read. My daughter is doing really well. She does good in vocabulary. She can do all these things, but she was still out on something. And so as a parent, I had to put my fears aside and I had to allow my daughter to develop social skills. Because even though she's smart and she knows everything that she knows, she went to school knowing so much. But guess what? She could not share. My daughter had to learn how to communicate. My daughter had to learn how to follow directions. So I'm saying all this to say that if I would have sheltered my daughter and not seen the why behind me putting her in a social setting where she had to be around other children, she had to be exposed because our world is not just about her and me. Because, see, in my environment, I'm creating an environment that she's used to. But in this world that we live in, there are situations that she's going to experience that's outside of the environment that I'm creating. And this is what I'm talking about sheltering, putting her in a bubble. I can't put her in that bubble because she has to learn how to function in civilization. She has to learn that there are laws we have. She has to learn that there are certain people out here she has to maybe avoid. I have to teach her not just about how to be safe, but I got to teach her how to be smart. I got to teach her how to survive. But think about if we as parents shelter our children to that degree where they're never exposed to anything, they won't know anything. And they will live their life in a fear that we have created. Because you do know that the only thing that our children are going to know is what we teach them, what we expose them to, what we explain to them, what we show them, what we put in front of them. Even when it comes to accepting other people, there are a whole bunch. This is a multicultural world we live in. There are so many cultures now. It's not just it's other languages here. I wanted to learn that. I wanted to know about the world. And because I'm a parent who's afraid because of everything that happens in the world, I don't expose her to that. When she gets out here at 18 and 19 and 20, 25, she's going to be lost. Then I haven't done my job as her parent because I have sheltered her to the degree where she's too afraid to take risks. She's like, Mommy, well, I want to go over here, but I want to get on the plane, but I don't want to get on the plane because what if the plane crashes? What if the plane blows up? What if the plane drops out the sky? Look at what I'm doing. I'm starting now because I haven't dealt with my fears. I've now passed them on to her. So now she's too afraid to be that ambitious, optimistic young lady that she can develop into because her mommy has now sown fear into her. That's not what I want to do. I have to deal with my fear as a parent so that when my child gets old enough, she will not be afraid of life. And that's what I wanted to talk about. We cannot allow the things that the unknowns, the feelings of the what ifs, the anxieties that we have, what we watch on TV, what we hear on social media, what we put our eyes on when we're on our phone scrolling, reading different things. You have to be careful because the eyes are the window to the soul. And there are things that we create in ourselves that don't even need to exist. It doesn't mean that we don't become smart and we don't prepare our children. By all means. But please don't not neglect taking them to the park because you think they're going to get snatched. Don't keep them from the beach or the swimming pool because you feel like, oh no, man, they might drown. That's irrational. If you're in there with them and you are supervising them and you're with them, you're not just letting them go, they're fine. Don't think I need to homeschool my kid from preschool all the way to high school. We don't want socially awkward children. We want them to know how to navigate in life. As parents, see, we may have fears, but we still have a job and a responsibility to make sure that our children understand life, how to live, because they're going to fly the nest. They're going to tweet tweet. They're going away. And then to me, that is the biggest fear of a parent now because it's like, oh my gosh, they're out here on their own. You're going to be thinking about, oh my gosh, did I teach them this? Okay, because you know our children going to get out here and do all kinds of things. And that's going to be a whole different fear we're going to have now. Because now we're no longer fearful because they've grown up now. But now they're adults. They're out here on their own. And then think about it. They are going to have their own children and their own families one day. And I don't want this to be some type of generational, my words, some type of generational thing that's developed where now we start making our kids afraid of everything. They don't want to do this. They afraid to do that. They don't want to fly. They don't want to get on a train. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to go to the movies. I mean, come on, y'all. This is what we do as parents, and it's all because of the fears that we don't address and the fears that we don't deal with. This is why this is a big challenge because that's why going back to the beginning when I said I wanted to share why I didn't want to be a parent. This is why. Because if I didn't become a parent, I wouldn't have to worry about another person that I have to think about that's not with me. I'm glad I became a parent. It's such a blessing to be a mom. But it's just now I have to learn to not allow fear to cripple me where I start being irrational or I don't start thinking logically. And my emotions are all over the place. And as soon as I leave, I'm hugging you, checking you, making sure you good, making sure ain't no scratches on your body. Nobody messed with you at school. I'm talking to you like, did this happen today? Did your teacher touch you? I mean, come on, that's paranoia. That's kind of like we need medication if we're going to go that route. I'm not trying to get on no medicine because I have anxieties and fears anxieties that have turned into fears because of all of the worrying that I do. No, I just want us to be encouraged to live. I just want us to remember that the world, while yet there are a lot of things that happen in the world that we don't agree with, and a lot of them we will never agree with, but I also want us to remember that there are so many great experiences our children need. They need to be a part of society the way you introduce it. I'm not telling you just throw them out there and be like, go ahead and learn the world. No. No, now that's crazy because you do have some parents. Now, I've seen the other side where some parents don't, to me, they don't have enough fear. And I say that because I'm going to tell you what bothers me as a parent. When I see children, young children outside, I'm talking about 4 on up, just outside playing, and there's no adult around. To me, I think that these parents want people to snatch their kids because I don't care. Something can happen so quick, especially if they're outside riding bikes, they're in the street. I'm like, if you are watching out your window, you don't know what can happen, and it's not about that irrational fear. It's that fear that's innate. That innate fear, that fear that I'm born with, that tells me if my child is going to ride a bike, I need to make sure that I'm out there with them because if they're riding a bike, sometimes they don't always be on the sidewalk. Sometimes they go on the street. The street has cars. So it's that natural part of me that's going to be in protection mode because I'm a parent. That is the good fear. That's the fear that we're born with because we want to make sure that it's no harm that's unwarranted that comes to our children. Okay, so that's the different fear. That's why I said it bothers me as a parent when I do see children out here that's not supervised because of the world that we live in. And some parents, I know some parents are parents at a younger age now, and they're still in the house and they don't have that. I'm not gonna say they don't have that same fear, but they just like, man, they okay. They out there with their friends. That still is not safe because the friends are that same age. If they all 8 years old, I mean, who's going to check on them? And sometimes just because your kid has a cell phone, things can happen in a blink of an eye, and a cell phone is not enough. I'm not saying I want y'all to start going out there following your kids around. I just want us to use precaution and I want us to balance our fear and not create a type of fear where we are so afraid that we make our children stop doing everything. You can't do this, you can't do that because we're afraid something's going to happen to them. No, life is a gift. Every single day that we are given it, we are to live our lives. We cannot control. It doesn't matter how much control we think we have. We can't control everything. We can't control every situation. We can't. As much as we want to as a parent, oh my goodness, especially when it comes to our children, we want that control. But guess what? We don't always have it because we can't control everything. Some things are out of our hands. And when it's out of our hands, that's what we can do nothing about. But when you have fear and you feel like you have to shelter your child from the whole world, you are doing them a disservice. Because when they fly the nest and they leave the coop, because my baby is 4, my daughter is going to be 14. What if she wants to go away to college? Ay, ay, ay. There are some parents who have now they let their kids go away to college, and that's not a community college. They might want to go to a school over in New York. They might want to go to a school somewhere in North Carolina. That might go to a school that's in Japan. I don't know where they might want to go. And my fear is like, no, but I don't want you to go because I'm afraid if you go over there, I don't know those people. I don't know what can happen. I mean, anything can happen. Guess what? It can happen while we sleeping in our beds at night, while the alarm system is set, while the car alarm is in there, while we have our seatbelts on, while the baby is in the car seat. The point is that being afraid can't stop us from living our lives. As parents, we have got to live. We have got to remember that it's okay to enjoy yourselves and your children have a good time. This is why we have those moments, we have those memories, because we're not going to be here forever. But while we are here, we can't allow our emotions and our logic and to allow fear to cripple and grip us to the point where we no longer enjoy this beautiful place that we live in. I just want to encourage us. I just want us to know that it's okay to have fear because we're never going to be without it. As long as our children are not in the safest place we know, which is right by us, we're always going to be wanting to know that they're safe, that they're protected, that they're making good choices. And for the parents whose children have reached that age now where they are going towards, I'm not talking about high school. I'm talking about now they're in college, or they're at the age where they're on their own. I know that as my parents, my mom, especially my mom, she always, even till this day, my mom, and I'm a grown woman, my mom, because my mom is my parents, I'm gonna say my parents, not just my mom, but basically my mom, because I feel like sometimes moms, sometimes we are them overprotective parents. We want to check on our children because, it's the bond that we have with our children. Even though the father has a bond too, they came from our body. So there's just this type of bond that we have with our children, this paternal bond where we always have to be in protective mode. My mom still calls me. I haven't heard from you. I'm like, Mom, you know how old I am by now? Do you know that I'm grown and I have my own baby? But guess what? Unless she hears from me, and it's not a fear, she still wants to make sure I'm safe. And that is a good fear because that's just that primal fear. That's just that innate fear. That's that part of us where it's healthy. And it's not really a fear, it's just that I want to make sure my baby is safe. So it's not that dominating irrational fear where it's like, oh, she's not answering the phone, so something must have happened. That's irrational. I probably was asleep. I might have been putting my daughter in the bathtub. I don't want to look out the window. I'm on and pull it up like, wait a minute, I'm knocking on the door. I ain't hear from you. I called your phone. No, my mom has not done that. She hasn't done anything. It's like, no, she hasn't done that. But I just know as parents, that's the extremes that I don't want us to do because if we start allowing fear to grip us to that degree, we will be those parents who show up at our kids' houses when they get older and be like, look, I done called you for like the last 10 times your phone rang. Maybe the phone was off because they were in the middle of something and they couldn't. And you knock on the door and you see your child has been in there trying to paint their house. So they couldn't answer the phone because they're messy. And they're like, I'm going to call her back. But I just don't want my child to live their life in this sheltered bubble, not prepared for life because mommy has created fear and passed it on. Because we can pass things on. And I want us to keep that in mind. We can create our children, because just when we train them up, we can mold them and put certain things inside of our kids that they don't even need. They don't even need. Look, I told you I got my little notebook, so I always have to look to make sure that I did talk about everything because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss mentioning something because I want us to really, as parents, start thinking about these things and addressing these things. Because I know that fear is something that we're never ever going to be without of. No, something we're never going to be without. But we just have to learn how to control it. We have to learn that it's okay to have some fear. And if you are a person like me, I'm like, Lord, help me with my fear. I need your peace, God. I need to know. And that's the one thing that when my daughter's at school, the only reason why I am not going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs is because of the peace that passes all understanding, that guards my heart and mind through Christ Jesus. Because I know that God has not given me a spirit of fear. I don't have to worry about what's going on with my daughter. I don't want to sit there and be thinking she's not going to make it to school on a bus because I seen something about a bus accident. I'm not about to put new thoughts in my mind. It's enough we see. It's enough negativity on the news, social media, on our phones. It's constantly before us. Constantly. And I don't need anything else coming to make me more afraid than a world that's scary because the world is a scary place. And so I just keep thinking about how our children will become adults one day. And when they become adults, they have to now tackle and navigate through a world that I want to make sure that they're not afraid of. I'm going to teach them about the things that are not good, about the things they need to stay away from. But I do not want to put in them things that they don't need to worry about. I just want them to be knowledgeable. I want them to pay attention because as their parent, that's what we do. We sow into them the direction they need to go. And I want them to know how to handle it. But I don't want them to wake up and be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to do that today. Oh no, what if I go outside and something happens? What if, I remember it was one woman, she would not, and she was a grown woman. This woman I used to work with when I used to teach, she would not drive on the Beltway. She had her license. And I'm like, if you live in Silver Spring, you taking a lot of back roads to get all the way down here to Ritchie Road. Like, where are you coming from? You got to get on the Beltway. For some reason, there was a fear that she had. And I know some people have a fear of driving, period. But she was this is what I'm saying though, she was a grown woman and she had a fear of that. I'm like, well, if you want to get somewhere quicker, sometimes you got to get on the Beltway. You have to make sure that you're not afraid. You got to say, you know what? I'm not going to find back roads and take 2 hours to get somewhere I could have got in about 45 minutes. And this is what I'm saying. We are not going to start putting fears in planting fears in our children and making them spring up as they become adults and they're afraid to live their lives. We can't be afraid of that. I don't want to be afraid of that. I want to make sure that when I impart things into my daughter, that it's useful information. That I have given her the experiences where she's going to be sufficient and be able to navigate life. Because I'm sitting here today, I'm an adult. She's 4 going on 5. But she's going to be sitting there one day and she's going to be an adult, gorgeous like her mama, might I add. I had to throw that in there. But she's going to be an adult one day. And I want her to not allow her fears to stop her because her mom allowed her own fears, which is mine, to stop me. You know? So I just want to talk about that. And the one thing I do want to say to parents is that when it comes to fear, I know another fear is that a parent deals with, or all parents deal with, is that we do not want to leave this earth and leave our children here, especially while they're young. But you know what I'm going to say to you with that? Live your life. Live your life. Make your memories. Enjoy every single day that you get. Take one day at a time. Take no thought for tomorrow because tomorrow takes care of itself. Allow yourself to enjoy the beauty that the world offers. And you have to know that we're always going to be surrounded by the things that are unpleasant in this world. It's going to be obvious because they televise it, it's always in our face. But when it comes to you dealing with your fears, live your life. I want you to live. Don't dwell so much on death. Don't dwell so much on what has happened, kids that are missing. This has happened to my child, school shootings, police brutality, abductions, because we can get caught up in all of that. And this is how we start to live our lives now, where we start making sure our kids are, it's like we become overprotective, overbearing. No, that's not how life is meant to be. Things can happen, but guess what? While I have today and right now, this is where I'm going to live my life. I'm looking forward to seeing my child when she comes off the bus. I'm looking forward to whatever we have to deal with when she comes in the house. Who knows? When it comes to my baby, who knows? But when it comes to fear, you have control over that. And if you think that you really need somebody to talk to about your fears, make sure you do that. Because remember what I told you, it's okay to ask for help. If you need to open up and express yourself and talk about how your fears are maybe taking over your life and you just don't want to impart that and start being this parent that starts sheltering your kids, because you know shelter is temporary. It's not made to be forever. We can't shelter our children forever. We can't do that. They have to be free. They have to live their lives. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit, and I do believe, I'm looking at my notes, that I did cover everything. And don't allow your anxieties to increase and create fear, because greater is He that's in me. And guess what? My God is not giving me a spirit of fear, but He's giving me power, love, and a sound mind. And I know that when my daughter is not in my protection, He's watching her. I know that she's in the palm of His hand. And just like she plans to return home to me, she plans to return home to me. I plan for her to return home to me just as she left, safe, sound, and being Lily. But anyway, with that being said, I pray that this video has really helped you all. I pray that it's caused you to, just think about fear and how you can handle it a little bit better. And just think about the different types of fear. The rational fears, when you need to know that, okay, now I have a right to be in protective mode. Just the primal fear, the fear that you have where as a parent, it's something that's inside of us where we're always going to be thinking about making sure that everything's safe and in place. We just have that fear. And then the irrational ones where we start creating situations that have nothing to do with us. Go to the movies with your baby. Go out to eat. Take them to the park. Go for a car ride. You know what I'm saying? Do something fun. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your children. Live your life. Because it's supposed to be lived. You're meant to live. So if you don't remember anything else, live your life and enjoy what God has blessed you with, which is your children. And with that being said, you all know what you need to do. That's stay fabulous. And guess what? I will chat with you later. Bye.